A funeral, right? But today as we read it, I invite you to think about, maybe this isn't just a funeral text, but the way Jesus lived every day and the kind of life that he invites us to as well. You'll find the text printed on page 8 if you want to follow along. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures, and he leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley or the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in your house forever. Amen. So this is unusual to me because it starts out by saying, the Lord is my shepherd. And I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what a shepherd does. I didn't grow up with sheep. I didn't grow up on a farm. I grew up in the suburbs in Seattle. And the closest I ever came to a sheep was Farmville on Facebook. But that was many years later because I don't really deal with sheep very often. That's just a truth about my life. I've been to Mary Brickell Village for dinner I don't even know how many times. Never once seen a shepherd. I'm guessing you haven't either. And so this is a weird text. What does it mean when it says, the Lord is my shepherd? Because it naturally doesn't occur to us that God is like a shepherd because we don't know what that means. This is the closest I know to explaining it just a little bit. You know, as sheep on its own, they're not very smart creatures. One of the downsides of the Bible is it talks about Jesus as a shepherd and us as sheep. But if you know any sheep, sheep are not the brightest creatures, you know. They are missing a few crayons in their box. And so if you're a sheep, you just naturally wander away and you check out. You can't take care of yourself very easily. If you're a fox and you see a sheep, can a sheep defend itself? No. They can't run very fast. They can't jump over stuff. A sheep is almost worthless defensively, and it's not very bright. And so sheep need a shepherd in order to survive, in order to be okay. You know, at my house right now, it's chaos. We have a 2.5-year-old, a 1-month-old, and a dog. The dog's the easiest, actually, out of all of them. I'm thankful for him. But, you know, when it comes to those little ones, every single day, they have a shepherd, and they don't know the name of it yet, and it's Mommy and Daddy, because every single day, when my 1-month-old wakes up, and he wakes up, I guess, a lot of times a day. Thank you, Jen. I love you for taking care of him. Every time he wakes up, someone's there with a bottle. Every single time he needs to be changed, someone's there, namely not me, but someone else, and someone changes him right away. Whenever my 2-year-old wakes up in the morning, she's still in a little crib, and what she does is she just starts making sounds like, mm. You know, she starts making sounds, and what she's really saying is, hey, where's my shepherd? Where's my shepherd? I'm ready for my day. And what do you know, every single day so far, as long as I went to bed on time, every single day I wake up, and I open her door, and I smile, and there she is ready, because she knows she has someone for her that every single day is going to get her out of bed. She's never made her own breakfast once, but she eats, because someone makes her breakfast for her. She doesn't know how to make her lunch, but somehow every day she eats. Every day when she gets up, there's things for her to do. She can't drive a car. She gets driven everywhere. She doesn't even know what safety is, and someone buckles her into a seat. She has a good shepherd, and it's her mommy and her daddy, because we take care of her. And it's amazing, right? It's a really good life. And as you grow up, you're like, well, I could use a shepherd, right? You know, I'm 37 years old, and sometimes I think to myself, you know, it'd be really nice to have someone watching out for me. It'd be really nice to have someone that not only took care of me in a lot of different ways, but who made sure that I was okay, that I was going to get from A to B, that things weren't just an accident, but there was someone actively guiding and loving me and taking care of me every day of my life. The text says that the Lord is my shepherd. And I love the next line. It's an incredible line. I lack nothing. You know, the honest truth is that in my day, I often feel like I'm on my own. That I don't have a shepherd watching out for me, that there's no one to check on me, and when I wake up in the morning, it's up to me to do everything. And when it says I lack nothing, man, that's the opposite of my life, I feel like sometimes, right? When I wake up in the morning, I lack everything. I don't have enough money or energy or time to get everything done that I want to do. From the moment I wake up till the moment I go to bed, I'm spending everything I have, and I don't have enough. When my daughter needs someone to play with her, I think to myself, is there anyone else who can do it? I'm tired. When there's things that I want to give or buy or just donate even, I think to myself, I look at my bank account number and I see lack, I don't see abundance. When I think about how many minutes are in my day, I think to myself, man, if only I had more time. If only there was just a little bit more. But the text says something different, right? It says, I lack nothing. Do you think you could write that about your own life? Do you think you could say in your own life that you lack nothing? That's a bold claim. Did you know, though, that that's also the promise that Jesus offers us? Jesus claims that he is the good shepherd. What makes him a good shepherd? It's that he lays down his life for his sheep, and he gives them the kind of life that is in abundance that we could ever imagine. We'll talk about that in a second, but I just want to point out two things about this text, just that were coming to me this week before I share a story with you. First one's this, is we've all heard that phrase, right? Even though I walk through the darkest valley or the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. We've all heard that a lot of times. And we often think about just death when that verse comes to life. And this week, I was sitting in a hospital room with a 101-year-old. Her name is Miss Ella. She was here at the church before I got here 6 years ago when there was almost just me and the two of you, right? But anyway, Miss Ella, she always sits right over there. Today, she's not in our service. She's in a hospital not very far away from here, and she doesn't have very much time left. But what I did this week is I just met with her for about an hour or so, and I just read Psalm 23 to her over and over and over. She couldn't, I don't know if she could hear me very well. She couldn't respond. She couldn't say anything. She's not really waking up these days. But here's what I know, is that she believed even in her death when she's going to die that God will be with her. But that wasn't just something that happened at the end of her life. Every single day when she was in here in worship, I would stop and talk to her, and it was dangerous because she would make you sit there for like half an hour. It felt like 3 hours. And she never asked you how you were doing. She just had advice for you. She was one of those kinds of people. She's amazing, don't get me wrong. But she's a 100-year-old Jamaican woman, and when she wants to talk to you, you just listen. And one of the things that I knew about her is it wasn't just death where God was with her. It was every single day. It was every morning when she woke up. It was every meal that she ate. It was every time she went to bed. She had this kind of confidence that her life was going to be okay through every up and through every down because the God of the universe, which is unlimited and full of abundant love, was with her every single day. And because of that, she didn't have any lack. She wasn't afraid of death. She wasn't afraid of anything because you don't have to be afraid if God is with you. There's a great phrase that I love, which is you plus God equals a majority. Nothing is impossible with God, and if you are with God, nothing is impossible for you. One other thing I just want to share with you. It says, my cup overflows. If you're like me, you know what it's like to have an empty cup. Where you wake up in the morning and you want to give to other people, but you know that you have nothing left inside. You wish you had more energy to call that person or to reach out or to do that thing, but instead your cup doesn't runneth over. Your cup just is barely filled. That's been my life sometimes, where I'll wake up in the morning and ask myself, how am I going to get through this day? But the good news of the gospel is this, is the power that rose Jesus from the dead is the same power that's available to us even this day. And when Jesus rose from the dead, what he really did is he inaugurated a new kind of kingdom by the power of the Holy Spirit that allows you and I to live a life where our cups run over, where we are not afraid of the valley of the shadow of death, and where every single day a life without lack is possible. I'm going to end by just telling a little story, and it's not a long story, but for me it's probably my most important story. So I'm blessed beyond what I could ever dream. I grew up in a healthy house with a healthy family in a nice little suburb in Seattle, and I'm really thankful for all the things that I have. But one of the things that started to happen to me as I grew up is even though I had everything, like my little daughter, right? Every day when she gets up, she has food, she has energy, she's got school, she's got all kinds of things. One of the things that you notice the older you get is you want more stuff. Your heart is hungry. God made us to want more. In fact, he made us to want infinity. So anything we search for in this world won't satisfy us because our hearts are only restful when they rest in him, who is infinite. But my heart was restless. And I was searching the world for something that would make me happy. And so I decided a long time ago that what I was going to do was try to make myself happy by being really successful. And so what I wanted to do was, all right, I'm going to go just pad my CV and my resume, and I'm going to build all the connections that I need, and I'm going to be as successful as I possibly can. And my goal at the time was to make as much money as I could, because I thought that I would have no lack. I would have abundance. I would have a cup that runs over if I could just make sure that I was pouring my cup with as much as I possibly could. And that was my life. I was doing okay at it, to be honest. In fact, if you looked at me from the outside, you'd say, that guy's doing great. He's got a lot of friends on Facebook, and things are going pretty well for him. But the real truth of my life at the time is that even though I might have had a lot of friends on Facebook, I would have traded every single one for a real friend who was with me. And even though my CV and my resume may have looked like they were doing really great, I would have traded everything to just know that I was loved unconditionally, regardless of how successful I was. I would have traded everything to know that there was something more to this life than meets the eye. And so this is my story, and I just want to tell it for a second. I tell it every Easter because it's important to me, and we'll see if it connects with you. But when I was growing up, my parents did a crazy thing. They were really smart. They sent me to a camp when I was in high school, and it was a Christian camp where they preached the gospel because it's really hard to do it at home. And they sent me off to this camp, and the only reason why I went is because there were hot girls and jet skis, and I thought to myself, all right, this camp's for me. I can put up with a little Christian talk at the end of the day, ignore that, and then just go on to the good stuff. At least that was like my mentality at the time, and I'm thinking to myself, that's a decent trade. I'll go do this. It's a camp called Malibu up in Canada. It's a young life camp if you're familiar with that. But anyway, I went, and I thought to myself, this is going to be a good thing. But then something happened to me that I could have never expected. It came out of right field for me. It was just a whirlwind that I didn't expect. So I was a tough shell. Every single day, when I woke up, people knew me, but I didn't really see people the way other people maybe see each other. I saw people as objects to help get me where I wanted to go, to try and be successful. And, I had this tough shell. I also was I've lost most of it, but I used to be very smart. And so one of the things that I would do is I would ask a lot of questions when it came to God. And I said, God, I don't know if you're real. I don't know if you exist. How will I ever actually be a Christian? I remember when I was a little kid, I would go to church, but I hated it. One of the things that I did, I remember when I got to junior high, I sat at the top of my stairs, and I realized for the first time that the only way my parents could make me go to church was by force. Because there comes a point where they can't make you go, right? All the kids are in our Sunday school, so I can say this, right? But anyway, I started to come to a point in my life where I started to think, maybe I don't need God. Maybe I don't even know if God's real. I don't even know if church is a real thing, or maybe it's just a manipulation strategy that people use to run. These are all the things that were going through my head at the time. And so here I am, this kid, with all these questions, with this whole other life that was moderately successful at the time, and I'm sitting down one night at this camp, and I'm watching a play. And if you know me, I'm not the kind of guy that likes plays. I'm a systematic theologian by training. That's what my doctorate's in. So I think like A, B, C, D. That's very logical. That's just the way I think. But here I was this day watching a play, of all things. And it's just by volunteers that were on our stage, and there's a couple hundred of us that are sitting out there. And I remember where I was. I was sitting in the back row, because back then I was a back row kind of guy, right? All of you in the back row, hello? We see you. We know you're here. It's okay. I've been there too. But I remember I was a back row guy at the time, and I didn't expect very much to happen that day, and I was just going through the motions. And this is what the play was about, and it changed my life forever. There was a girl in the play who, there were other people on the play, but she had her heart. And everywhere she went, she carried it with her. It was kind of like a representation of the heart inside of her. And everywhere she'd go, when she was little, she would just give her heart to people. So her parents were there, and she would give her heart to them, and then they would give it back. And there were other people in her life, and she would give her heart to them, and they would give it back. And even Jesus was there on the side of the stage, and she would give her heart to Jesus, and he would give it back, and everything was really good until she started to grow up. And things started to happen. She became a teenager, and she started dating. And she gave her heart to a boy. And what do boys normally do to teenage girls? They ruin their lives, right? And in this play, what happened is the boy does something stupid, and he almost puts a little dagger right through her heart, and she was broken. She takes her heart back, and what does she do? She wraps it in foil, and she says, I'm never giving this to anyone again. But her parents are there, and so maybe they'll protect her, and she gives her heart back to them. Well, her parents start fighting more and more the older she gets, and they start arguing. Eventually, they get a divorce. And when they get a divorce and they start going through all this pain in their family, what do you know? There's more daggers that start going into her heart. And what happens is she just grabs it back, wraps it in foil, and she's got all these injured like little sticks pointing out of it. And here she is, not very old, but she's got this heart in her hands that's all beat up. And Jesus is still over there. He's still on the side of the stage, and he says, hey, why don't you give it to me? And she looks at him and she says, man, every time I've given my heart to someone, they've broke it. Every time I've trusted someone or been vulnerable or had faith in someone to come through for me, every single time I end up with one of these stakes in it. Why would I give it to you? And I remember watching this play thinking to myself, that's me. You know, the reason why I don't want to follow God, or the reason why this apparent good shepherd over here thinks that he can run my life, the reason why I wasn't trusting him was because I was afraid of being hurt. And every single one of us in this room right now, did you know that you have a heart too? You have a heart just like I did that day, just like that girl does. Every single one of us has a heart that's broken. And every single day there's also a good shepherd on the side of the stage saying, will you trust me with it? Did you know that if you give it to me, I'll never let you down? Did you know that if you give me your heart, I will lead you by streams of water and patches of grass and a kind of life where you will have abundance like you've never imagined? But I remember that day thinking to myself, is that really possible? Is that something I would actually be willing to do? And I'll be honest with you, it's probably one of the craziest things I've ever done in my entire life. It's not like me. It's still barely like me. But what I did is I remember going down by myself and saying, God, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to give my heart to you. I don't even have like this prop that the stage person had. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to trust that you'll take care of me. I want you to be my good shepherd. I want you to lead me, because the honest truth is that I'm more like a sheep than I'm willing to admit. Every single time I try and lead my life, I don't end up where I want to go. Whenever I take control of the reins of whatever this Pastor Chris thing is, things don't go in the direction that I want. For a lot of us, we have all kinds of shepherds in our life, right? We think that maybe our boss is our shepherd. They're the ones that will tell us what to do. Maybe our spouse is our shepherd, and if you're one of those spouses, that's tough. It's a lot of pressure on a spouse to be the shepherd of the family, and it's also not the kind of relationship that you want. For some of us, our good shepherd or our shepherd is our habits or our addictions, where every morning we wake up and that bottle or that pill is the thing that controls our life and the one that we go to every day for help. I don't know what your shepherd is, but we all have one, because the truth is wherever we go throughout our day, we're asking for guidance and for help because we can't make it on our own. And here's what I want to just invite you to today, is that there truly is a good shepherd. There truly is a good shepherd who will lead you in a way where you will have no lack the rest of your life. One of my favorite phrases from that whole Psalm 23 is it says that even though my enemies surround me, I set a table in the midst of it. And picture this. You could have the worst day of the world where everyone's attacking you on every side. And Psalm 23 says, I'm okay. I'm just going to have dinner with God right now because with him there's no lack. And I know my shepherd's got me through everything. Did you know that when we celebrate the Lord's Supper, it's the same thing? No matter what's going on in your life, no matter how many stresses, habits, hurts, or hang-ups you brought into this place today, you can just sit down with God right now and have a meal. He says, come and join me. What we're going to do in a second is pray. And I'm going to invite you to pray along with me and say the words. Because if you're hungry for a good shepherd, someone to lead your life in a way where you will have peace and lack, my invitation to you today is to take your heart and to hand it over. When I tried to hold on to it for myself, I ran into as many problems as you can imagine. And maybe you're in the same boat too. But today, if you're ready, the invitation is clear. Just say, Jesus, I give you my heart. And I want you to be my good shepherd. And so right now I ask everyone to bow your heads, and if you feel led, to repeat after me. Dear God, I invite you to be my good shepherd. And I hand my heart to you. Amen. So even in the presence of our enemies, God invites us to a table. And he says, come and enjoy. Here at the First Presbyterian Church of Miami, we do communion one way. There's no one right way to do it, I don't think. But this is how we do it. If you have a heartbeat, you're welcome at this table. If you have a heartbeat, you can come. Because we think when Jesus said come to the table, he didn't say, are you smart enough? Have you been to church enough? What's your giving levels like? What'd you do yesterday? He asked none of those questions. He says, if you have a heartbeat, you are welcome at my table. And here's what I know, is if you walked in here today, you're welcome.